Now to our continuing coverage on housing in Hawaii, our Emily Cristobal recently spoke with UHero's Justin Tyndall on the Debrief to discuss the impact of short-term rentals on Hawaii's housing market.
In January, Governor Josh Green put an emphasis on Hawaii's housing needs in his State of the State address, focusing on recovery in Lahaina. He even expanded on his plans to target short-term vacation rentals more broadly across the islands, saying they are artificially inflating the cost of housing and displacing residents. In the address, Green announced a new program, House Hawaii's Ohana, that would offer tax exemptions to a short-term vacation rental owner who sells their property to a local family or to someone who turns the home into a long-term rental for locals. He pledged to kick off the program this fall if the proposal is approved by the legislature. Meanwhile, the housing crisis has contributed to an alarming exodus of residents in recent years, which onlookers say is only forecast to worsen in the wake of the Lahaina disaster.
Maui and Kauai in particular are just way, out of proportion to any other market in the U.S. in terms of the impact of vacation rentals. Just an enormous amount of housing is tied up in vacation rentals. I was looking at recent updates to this data, since the fires. So, in the fires in Maui, we saw a pretty sharp drop-off in listings, right after the fires because of tourism and legal barriers to having vacation rentals. But in the last few months, it's rebounded almost entirely. So it seems like we've lost about 300 vacation rentals, directly in the fire-affected areas. But there's really been no drop in other places in Maui, right? So the total amount of vacation rentals in Maui has really recovered almost entirely, which is, pretty interesting and, feeds into these conversations on the role of vacation rentals in remedying, solutions for fire survivors, right? We still have a huge supply of vacation rentals on Maui that could be used for long-term rentals potentially.
Governor Green said on average, short-term rental properties can make 4 times what they would if the property was simply rented to a local family. As an economist, what do you think the likelihood is of owners actually following through with the plan that the governor proposed if they make that much money? Is the tax exemption enough to convince these owners to sell?
Right. Probably not for the typical owner who is running a vacation rental, right? So, if it's true, the typical income they take is 4 times as much, we're going to need a pretty, seismic shift to convince people to shift into the long-term market. I would throw out that, a more direct way to target this issue would be to increase property taxes on vacation rentals. So, on Maui and elsewhere, we already charge differential property taxes based on owner-occupier or short-term rentals, right? So if we just, significantly increased property taxes on short-term rentals, this would provide the incentives for people to get out of that market and get into, make it available to an owner-occupier who would pay very low rates or a renter who would, pay lower property tax rates. So I think that seems to me to be the more direct policy solution.
You can watch and listen to more of the Debrief at hawaiinewsnow.com or wherever you get your podcasts. This is Emily Cristobal for Hawaii News Now.